Well, hello everybody. I just finished my a little addition class. We had a half session last Tuesday. Then I went into Canada tonight with the class and the group. And it was amazing because there was a Canadian justice brought in. And of course, I hammered her with many questions. And of course, she couldn't answer any. Not that she wouldn't, she just can't because of her position. She answered many questions somewhat related to mine, but asked better by better professionals. And of course, United States fellow was there too, and he brought forward it through the United States way, which was excellent in its own right. I brought up Treaty 7. I brought up Chief Justice Wagner in the Supreme Court's ruling in April, where they in fact make a judgment against all Treaty 7, and specifically, people, when we look at the blood reserve down southern Alberta, second largest reserve in Canada, they're without much in representation that they should have in place, even in our crummy crown system, I call it. They're missing a lot. They have key personnel missing from key areas of their executive that they should have in place to represent them. They don't have it right now. And what happened here in early April is Chief Justice Wagner and the Supreme Court of Canada's ruling, they said they were going to apply provincial property rights powers in relation to a statute of limitations on the 162 square kilometers that should have been bestowed upon that reserve a very, very long time ago in its inception. In fact, going back to the 1870s. And it was never done. And of course, that land was dispersed largely. When you look at Alberta, much of Treaty 7 has been put to private lands. When you look at Alberta, Saskatchewan, you see this reoccurring thing in the south, in the fertile lands, the plains as they're called. But then as you go up into Treaty 6 for Alberta, and then of course into Treaty 8, you see how much crown lands kept by the crown and limited from even what you'd call the settlers. When we talk about the wampum belt, the two straight lines, the two canoes, that specific belt is what we're talking about, where it's supposed to be shared with those peoples. And of course, they were forced into treaties. Now, Treaty 7 largely taken and dispersed, while other numbered treaty lands are not. They still remain crown lands. And as you go around Canada, outside of Alberta and Saskatchewan, it becomes very tiny. Even Manitoba, when they say the old postage stamp, Winnipeg, and all that, everything becomes tinier. By the time you get to Ontario, Quebec, very tiny, tiny portions. The percentage of private property is so very low for those big provinces. And of course, BC, almost all unceded, 90%, no treaties, nothing. It's just do as they see fit. And this is about law, rule of law. And then what was beautiful about this in my class, it's a large amount of civil law states, civil law, not common law. And it was nice to be able to highlight the flaws of a a common law system that is just like the United States of America, because they're common law too. However, rules don't seemingly apply in Canadian laws as they flow very easily in the United States of America. No problem. We make decisions based on the highest laws of the land. This is what it is. This is what's been done. This is a case set precedent. We grow. Canada remains the same. And then there was the big argument brought by another professor here in Canada, and I'm not going to say names because I don't really have the right to do that, and I know that sucks for everybody. All I'm going to say is this is a newly appointed justice in Ontario at the supreme level. I'll just leave it at that. Sorry, superior level. I'll leave it at that. And not a mean lady at all. Very honest. A lot of what I tell all of you was in another way reinforced through other academic questions because mine were blatant and blunt. It's like a sparring session, I like to say it, where in boxing you can paw and you stick your hand out. Now, there's a reason why boxers do that. They're getting the other side to throw something so they can slap it down and counter, or they're just going to paw for reach, get a feel, see the speed, but not take the impact. There's lots of reasons why you do it. That's kind of what I was doing tonight. It was very upfront. I hammered it out there. So this works I'm going to be doing, this education we're going to bring to actual Treaty 7 as best we can. Again, they're missing key components of their system that should be in place, key positions, hierarchy that's missing, which is wrong to begin with. So that means Canada isn't operating in good faith to begin with. But again, the biggest problem here was the application of law. Clearly, you don't have to be some kind of lawyer when it comes to common law. Any Joe Jane, really, if you wanted to put in the time, you can look at similar cases and precedent, and then you'll see, right? So when we're dealing with First Peoples, you're like, wait a minute. You've got treaty numbered Indians, and it's a lot the same for the named. In precedent law, they've been removed from all federalism, the division of powers. So when the province, when a Supreme Court, which is the highest court of Canada, starts invoking provincial law over peoples removed from all provincial powers, kept away from it, instituted outside of it entirely, and it's in precedent case law. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you pull that back in and say, oh no, it applies in this situation. Again, private property rights for First Peoples on reserve lands, and using precedent in what are subjects in private property who have private property. But again, this isn't the same for reserves. It's certainly not the same for the blood reserve. And I don't see how, in settlements and not having lands that you were officially to have, why you shouldn't be allowed to sue when, without any consultation, without any representation, settlements were made over many hundreds of years. The reality is things have to move forward for them in at least their legal system. That I don't agree with everybody, but do you understand what I'm saying here? Even in their crusty, crummy crown system, right, that's all for them, they couldn't even apply the laws as they are that benefits them. When it didn't benefit them, they broke them or bent them or reached over here and said, now we're going to pull this set of laws in and apply it to you and set a precedent. Well, it's contrary to other precedent. It's contrary in so many ways. This was done by our Chief Justice. I can tell you it was presented here, and it was an honesty, just like I said, exactly how a Chief Justice is appointed is through Prime Minister. Governor General does it, but the Prime Minister tells the Governor General. That was articulated very well. Just like all Superior Court justices are through Lieutenant Governor via Premier, and can even be from the Governor General through Prime Minister too. Two ways provincially. See the problem here? I call it King's Court or fusion. That was articulated again, and that was for all of those in my class of Spanish and maybe some Portuguese, but I know we went through Portugal in my last class. But I'm moving on to now Colombia and Costa Rica. I start this Tuesday, then I get a 2-week break, which is nice. My hours change at work, but we're going to be doing a major project here, me and several First Peoples, real First Peoples from across Canada. Yes, the same people from residential school genocide. And this is a much smaller project. Kind of thankfully, it's just Treaty 7, so that's very nice. It's just sad as we're going through it, and I'm going through it, that the levels aren't there. Now, when I use the reference to boxing, now I've put it out there. I've pawed a justice at least at the superior level, and I'm sure that that's going to start getting talked about now, because my point is very valid. were supposed to be common law, and for everybody who doesn't understand that, that's the law of precedent. And there was other Canadian academics invited to speak, and they were going through that too, that there seems to be a problem with the executive and the judiciary in these advisory positions maintaining any kind of precedence, which means following common law. And if you're not doing that, you're doing something else. Now, I have articulated that as the Crown and the Fusion, i.e., King's Court, a very old system that's been around forever. You can go look at the UK and the British Empire and all its history. Tons of stories. The Round Table and the King's Court. You can watch all kinds of fantasy movies, and you'll see of those times. You see the king, and the King's Court, and the King's everything. It's all fused as one. If you don't make the king happy, you're gone. Somebody else is in. You'll get thrown out. We've seen it in all kinds of historical movies and in Hollywood. People don't see the problematic of this, and I do. And the work I'm doing, I do see it. And when they tell us, well, it's a common law system, common law for who? I asked many questions. What is a citizen in Canada? Because according to the Constitution, and they showed that, a screenshot of everything was beautiful. I'm not mad at any of these people, not mad at the justice, not mad at the professor who presented. I'm not, because at least it was honest and truthful, and it gave us things to think about. You couldn't answer my things, but who is a citizen? And of course, there's a whole section, mass sections of the Constitution that I believe list all those who are citizens. And then there's the rest of us born subjects, when we talk about the two canoes. Then there's all those who immigrate to Canada, and clearly anyone who immigrates here, you find that in the Citizenship Act, when it's time for you to become a Canadian citizen, you in fact give that away. You give that away and you become a subject through swearing your allegiance to His Majesty, currently King Charles III. And the rest of us are born that way. You're born, as the Constitution states, that all heirs, doesn't matter who, that's you, your children, your grandchildren, forever and a day, unless you ascend to one of the listed positions in the Constitutional Acts of Canada, which are a mass amount of the Constitution. I'm not mad at the justice again, but to kind of skip from 1867 right to the 1982, while glorious academics around the world will tell you Canada has 11 amendments, and of course, in those 11 amendments between 1982 and 1867, there's also all the executive powers of the constitutions of each province there too, imposed constitutions by what? The Crown. And of course, it's all British for most of it, or through the Privy of Council, i.e., Lieutenant Governor, appointed, and by who? Governor General of Canada. So it's a rigged system, whether people like that or not. That was articulated very well. I don't think anyone disputed that. Of course, how people see that's different. I don't see Canada as a very strong democracy when your average citizen doesn't have the civics, the civic education to understand what their country is, how their government really runs. I mean, I'm being blessed. I'm being fed literally great academics from all over the world. Every session I do, it's 3 new academics, and it's glorious indeed, especially for me. I'm sitting here in CNRL. My hours are changing tomorrow. They're moving up a half an hour. It's going to be very hard for me to get back from work to get here for the 6 o'clock times. And like I said, I'll just have to talk to work and work it out. But it's what it is, right? I'm not going to waste this. It's a 1-year long program. I got to make it to Christmas, and I can't miss any sessions. I won't, because it's very important. And I've had some comments where people say, "Oh, worry about Canada. Don't worry about the rest of the world." Well, I can tell you, if I don't have key places of the world behind me when the time comes, and I'm not going to get into too much more than that, but when you talk about the UN, if you don't have key countries behind you, and you don't have a good grasp of what they are and what they're all holding, or what's important to them, and you don't understand their design, you're screwed. You can present all you want in your mythical reality that somehow we're this all powerful Canada that rules the world and the universe. We don't. We're very small, very limited. And it was interesting. Some of the comments, there was some colorful language exchanged, not by myself, but I saw it in comments pop up. I think he got erased, right? And it was kind of, I was like, whoa, I can't believe that, right? But that was my first ever with a justice in Canada, and it went as I kind of figured what it wasn't mean. I didn't take anything personally. It actually backed up a lot of the work I've been doing and my theories, which I've presented several, and there's others way above me and actually big standings throughout the world. Like I really enjoyed that American style defense there. I really enjoyed that. It is attractive to me. The States is very attractive at this point. It was very good tonight, especially with my own country. And you feel like kind of kicked off your feet, but it was like USA came and kind of rounded things out for me. And I didn't get mad or anything or offended. Like I said, I just kind of, it's okay. I already know what Canada is. I got pretty broad shoulders, but I was really well articulated by US, and they sure showed differences, key differences, things of focus that are very important to the work I'm doing too. So people don't ever think that me messing around in this isn't important. It's huge. It's huge, and you learn so much. Like I'm making this book, right? I'm making this book. Like look at me already. This is just since I got to camp. I have another one at home, and people who know me really well. I got these kind of things, these brown leatherbacks. I got like stacks of them I'd made. Like I could write so many books probably, but when I finish this in 1 year, we'll see how thick that is, and that's going to be this kind of stuff on the entire world. Think about that. I'm going to get through every continent, every country, and that's something major, right? International law, right? That's what I'm going to do. So God bless everybody. It's your choice to share. It's just kind of my thoughts as I'm letting it go. Like I really stepped in the arena with Canada tonight, and it was good. I didn't go crazy or off the rocker or lose my cool. I didn't. It was kind of nice to at least interact with the justice. Of course, it's nothing like the United States or even South America. I had El Salvador, Ecuador. I got to talk to chief justices there. Like I don't understand Canada in that, where it's like there's a line in the sand, and it's the parliamentary system, but more than that, it's the crown. It's a really bad deal, guys. Very bad deal, because it shouldn't be. How is it I can just go to Kansas and converse with the justice or have an audience with the Supreme Court of Canada, or at least their representatives, so I can make a list of stuff and they take. Like, how is that even, you know what I mean? And then in Canada, it's like, how dare you, it says a lot. It says a lot. It says a lot for me. But I am burnt. These sessions take a lot out of me. But like I said, notes, and then study. Like there's gonna be a 2 week break after Tuesday between, so I gotta squeeze that in every night because there's so much I have to go through in Spanish, and then there's some Portuguese too. So I have a ton, but in all this too, Treaty 7's got to go, and I'm going to contact our team, the residential school genocide team, because now I'm the one telling them, slow down, we got all kinds of time. But this opportunity came, and I just had to throw that jab. I had to pop the Treaty 7 thing in the face, and I know that's going to go around now, so now I'm going to have to go forward, right? I put it out there. It was in front of me. You know what I mean? It's an opportunity. And like I said, this is going to be United Nations Security Council again. It's going to be a big deal. So thanks, everybody. Thank you all for believing in me. It's an incredible journey I'm on, and I'm sitting here in a CNRL camp, You wouldn't believe the people I was on Zoom with tonight. Like, it's unbelievable, but that's the truth, and it's I'm just gonna stick with it and keep going. It's Christmas will come wherever I'm at, right? Hopefully, I got little warmer conditions here, but I'll probably be in a, utility trailer deal, or my little toy hauler system set up. If I get things that I want done here done, I'll be in Florida, but it won't be. It'll probably be in another deal like this in my own little trailer until I get my place established. But yeah, pretty cool. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Share if you want. I mean, it is important, but and for First Peoples, yeah, I've put the jab out there, so that's going to be going through, I'm sure, because that's Ontario at the superior level. That's going to go through them, and I think, yeah, like they have some explaining to do. How do you apply provincial legislation and levels of citizenry where it doesn't work, and all these other precedent, which means so many cases before where First Peoples never get that applied, and then you just up and flip, because why? Because you owe somebody something serious, and it's not just something small. The second largest reserve in Canada, who's also the least represented. It does, as I'm going through it, like I said, I'm not First Peoples, but that is just such a travesty of justice. It's such an abuse that you can't just throw away to, oh well, folks. And that's when Canada's abusing the subjects, when we see COVID, carbon tax, and all these tremendous things in our history, tremendous brutal wrongs. When we let these kind of wrongs go for the First Peoples, we're only going to take more. Like I said, those two canoes, when you think of that wampum belt, the straight one with the two canoes, that applies. So the more wickedness put upon them, the more wickedness the crown's going to put on you, and vice versa. And like I was talking today from one fella from Treaty 8, he said, it's about if we can get some kind of settlement justice for them and land, especially land, then the Canadian subjects can get it too. And it's about taking that crown land back from the government, and somehow getting to we the people. And if people don't see that, you will when your kids can't own a home, they can't make life in normal jobs, when they're living destitute. And if you haven't been paying attention to the news, all parties are in on it now. They are full tilt on the Century Initiative, colonialism at the worst level ever since probably the 1867 to 1876 Indian Act aftermath. And we're right there again. And I mean, 100 million people on the same small 9% that is the size of the Florida Panhandle. The state of Florida, that's almost all of Canada entirely in private property for us, and all reserves into the entirety of Florida. 25 million versus over 40 million. And then you wonder why your property values are out of the realm of normalcy. Same thing in Australia. You find it in New Zealand. Australia's even worse than Canada. That's how bad it is. That's my video, folks. Share if you want to. I guess it is important for First Peoples and Canadians that I've thrown it out there. The judgment by Chief Justice on Treaty 7 early April, and it's out there, and they know now that I've got it, and I'm going to be taking that ball and running with it. And the Canadian government already knows what happened with residential school genocide. So it's got to happen. We got to do it, and let's stick it to them. Bye now. Have a good night.